All right, well, let me get the slides up for everybody. And away we go. My name is Grace Carter. I'm the Associate Director of Community Impact here at Arts Now. I work with Nicole Mullet, who's our Executive Director, and we serve as the local arts and culture agency for Summit County. So we support the artists and creative organizations in the region and serve as the kind of steward of the to ensure the implementation of the Akron Summit Cultural Plan, which was a community-driven planning process to determine what priorities are most important to the community relative to arts and culture. And I will pass it over to Lynette and Beth to introduce Summit DD and what they do for our community.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Grace. As Grace shared, my name is Lynette Kleka, and I work in Summit DD's Community Supports and Development Department, and I am blessed with the opportunity to work within the community to help organizations such as Jane talked about, Heinz Pole. Hi, Jane. So excited to see you here. That's one of the spaces. Akron Metro Parks. We've done a lot of supports in those areas too to help the community become more inclusive and accessible, and what that means to each unique organization within our county. So Beth, did you want to talk about yourself a little bit?
Sure. I work also in community supports and development. I work primarily in employment, but I also am our contact person for our partnership with Summit Art Space. Summit DD provides all kinds of services. We primarily are we work with case management and services and support coordination. We work in early childhood centers. We're everywhere, and this is our mission and vision.
Yeah, and if I could just add a little bit for our mission and vision, as you look at the mission, and it talks about one person at a time. So how does this translate to the community? So as you begin to plan for your outdoor events, that's why we're here, I would encourage you to take time to really get yourself into a good mindset of, how can I design an experience that supports the broadest range of people possible? It's a great place to start. And then when you look at our vision, and it really talks about people feeling included, we were speaking of all people. But this is where you really come in, because in order for this vision to become a reality, it's going to take all of us. It really is. It's well beyond us, and even the smallest acts. I think this is really important to understand. Even the smallest acts can generate massive results. So if this sounds overwhelming, always remember, one person at a time, and this little bit of knowledge that a support for one often becomes a support for many, many Summit County community residents. So it's about being an intentional, and that's why we're all here today, to help support that intentionality. So back to Grace or Nicole. Who's next?
Yeah, I can take it back over. Thank you both. So for a moment, I want to talk about the cultural plan and our statement of cultural equity. So this came out of that cultural planning process, and I'll read it to you briefly. That statement is: the strength and future of Akron Summit reside in our ability to be an inclusive community where all people are acknowledged, welcomed, and respected. Our arts and cultural assets are a tribute to our individuality and shared humanity. Together, we will create a future where we inspire authentic learning, celebrate our uniqueness, and cultivate creativity. I also want to point out too that we have some wonderful photos by Elizabeth Tipton, who's a local photographer. She attended an event that was at Summit Art Space back in March. It was a arts and inclusion themed art walk. I know we're talking about outdoor arts events today, and a lot of those photos are indoors, but they're still really lovely, so we wanted to share those. So out of the cultural plan came 10 key priorities. These serve as Arts Now's North Star So we always say that the way that we will get to these 10 priorities might shift and change, but they remain our North Star, with the first two being equity and accessibility. And in that process of creating the cultural plan, 97% of the Akronites that were interviewed said that equity and access are important to them as it pertains to arts and culture. So with that in mind, the Arts and Culture Inclusion Council was created. And this is a council that is staffed by Arts Now, but is independent of our nonprofit, made up of a group of individuals from the community who care about advancing inclusion as it relates to arts and culture. And we have a couple members of the Inclusion Council here with us today. So Jocelyn and Lisa, if one of you would be able to say a few words about the Inclusion Council to give everybody a little bit more context and background, that would be lovely.
Lisa, would you like to share? Would you like for me to do that?
I will yield to the boss.
I'm not the boss.
I'll jump into.
Okay. What I'll say as the chair, I think I've been with the council since it started. And we're a relatively young council. However, our endeavors are purely to be able to support previously marginalized communities within the arts space, both with accessibility and support to be able to create the art and to share the art that artists of all walks of life, LGBTQ community, artists who are Black, other artists of color, women, and when I say marginalized groups, I also mean those who are Indigenous as well. So we are supportive of those artists and those groups who are creating art that is not only reflective of our community at large, but also of their personal perspectives. And so we're working hard to do that, as well as this year we are working on a fundraiser that will be coming in a few short months to be able to continue to support these artists in this way. Lisa, would you like to also share?
Certainly. Well, that was beautifully said. I always look at it from both perspectives too. So Jocelyn beautifully covered the perspective of the artists from, widely varied backgrounds. And I always also think of, when the artists have the opportunity to have their art seen, we always want to make sure that there are no barriers to people coming to enjoy that art as well. So we're always trying to look at, the 360 of the experience in a way that will always, support the artists in the best way we can.
Thank you both. And if there's any other members of the council that have joined the call and I missed you, I didn't do it on purpose. I just can't see everybody who's in the room now that I have the slides up, but feel free to identify yourselves. We really appreciate your work and service on the council. And there's a link in the slides. I'll send these slides out after the workshop if you want to learn more about the Inclusion Council, the PD events that the council will do, and the members and their bios is all online. But with that, Beth and Lynette have already had a chance to introduce themselves, so I am going to let them take it away with our tips on actually implementing being accessible in our outdoor events. So take it away.
Thank you, Grace. So what is inclusion? I would like to start here. Imagine a world where accessible parking spaces were no longer needed. They're no longer needed because people would be so cognizant of the needs of others, we would naturally leave spots closest to the buildings open for people who needed them. But here's the kicker. We would do it without judgment. This is the world that I actually, and so many other humans, and I'm going to include all of you into this space, envision when we think of inclusion. And honestly, it really all does come down to an equation, math equation, A plus B equals C. So A stands for access. Access is about creating a common outdoor art event experience. It can, identify spaces that can people navigate through these. Can people physically be in spaces? Do they have logistical things that they need to engage? So really being able to have access to your events. And the B then is for belonging. And this is about creating an atmosphere where everyone feels welcome at your event. Is this event comfortable and designed to support the engagement of all people? So when you put these all together, that access, that physical part of your event, along with that belonging, ensuring people feel welcomed, you get real community. And there's your C, community. This equation actually comes from OCALI, as you can see, Grace has it up there, which is the Ohio Center for Autism and Low Incidence. And for your convenience, Grace will also be sharing the PDF with all the information I just shared with you in the chat box. It is wonderful. It is easy to follow and navigate, and very insightful as well. So why does inclusion matter? First and foremost, it's really important we identify that disabilities is a natural part of the human experience. It is also the largest minority group in the world and the only one that anybody can join at any time, whether it's prenatal, birth, illness, accident, traumatic brain injury. If we all live long enough, we will all experience a temporary or permanent disability. So how could this not be a natural part of the human experience? And I also wanted to share that many of us have been lied to. We have been fed the lie that people with disability diagnoses need to be fixed. So I want to quote a wonderful advocate. Her name is Stella Young. And I want to give her a shout out in the fact that she has a TED Talk. So it's Stella Young. I encourage everyone to view it. It's very, very powerful. But she quotes, "We need to shift the focus from fixing disabled individuals to fixing the barriers in our own society that exclude them." So fix the barriers. Why? Here's another reason why. Because people with disabilities have the exact same rights as all people. They have the rights to non-discrimination, access, equality to opportunities, inclusion, and full participation in society. And these actually are the basic principles underlining the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA. So that was a lot. I'm excited now to share, though, that we're going to move to Beth, and she's going to delve in with some examples of what inclusion looks like. So take it away, Beth.
Okay. So Grace mentioned we did the art walk with Summit Art Space in March. We coordinate with the library for the Real Abilities Film Festival. Through our partnership with Summit Art Space, we do art show pop-ups around the county, at the library, at the probate court, and the executive offices. We work with area libraries, hospitals, and early childhood centers. As Lynette mentioned, we participated in the Heinz Pole Festival and did an accessibility audit. We've helped with the universal changing stations you've seen pop up around the county. Lynette mentioned the inclusive literature workshop. We also have a hand in inclusive playgrounds, and you can pretty much find us everywhere. We've supported inclusion efforts of local churches and presented at state conferences like the Ohio Library Council and Parks and Recreation Association. And that is the mobile sensory bus, and Lynette's going to talk about that next.
Thank you. Yeah, you know what? We can be found in the most unexpected places, but we really like to kind of stay stealth. So we come in, we provide that support that you are seeking, and then we just gradually, move on. It's all about you. It's all about helping you. So let's talk Sensory Bus. Welcome to the Sensory Bus. This is a groundbreaking community support designed to provide a short-term safe and calming space for people who may become overly stimulated at an outdoor event. So the bus, which is owned and operated by the Inclusioneers, a nonprofit organization. Many people think Summit DD owns the bus. It's actually the Inclusioneers. It's designed to help individuals regain composure so they can re-engage in an event. The bus took 3 years to create and was supported by Summit DD, the University of Akron, and the Autism Society of Greater Akron. So Grace has pulled up an interactive video that we can kind of navigate through so you know what this bus looks like. So this is the inside. So you'll see all sorts of elements, but it really is pointing out just how clean and not a lot of distraction in this space. All of these different elements are tools that really can help somebody either de-escalate, calm down, catch their breath, and get ready to go back in. We like to say the bus is not a destination. It's a stopping point to help people re-engage. So Grace, could you kind of pull up to the ceiling? I also wanted to show it does have about 30,000 LED lights that are attached to an iPad with a program that they're able to display different patterns that have been specifically designed to help individuals who may have autism, ADHD, any type of space where that soothing element can really help support people. I'll be honest with you. We have had moms with several children in tow come on the bus for a hot minute and say, I just need to sit here and relax. It's air conditioned. Absolutely. We're here for all people. We have had people of advanced age come in. It does have a chair lift for people who utilize wheelchairs and things like that. And if you would like to potentially access and utilize this, it is free of charge to the community. It does need to, if it's coming through Summit DD, because you can't actually request it through Summit DD, it would need to meet our specific qualifications. Basically, you saw the vision and mission. It needs to meet our vision and mission when we choose to do this. So like I said, you can go through Summit DD. Joan introduced herself earlier. She's one of those direct links who can help guide what that looks like and how to navigate that support through Summit DD. So with that, I am going to turn it back over to Beth to talk about resources. Thanks, Grace.
Okay, so we have a lot of resources in Summit County. First and foremost is going to be the accessibility library, which Lynette is going to go into a little more on the next slide. But through Summit DD, we can help with consultation. We can help with the accessibility audit that Joan is in charge of. There's also the Advanced Independence Network. They have a loan closet for wheelchairs, ramps, and rollators. They also provide on-site consultations. Asia Inc. and the International Institute of Akron provide interpreting services, and Greenleaf Family Service and the Artistic Sign Language Service provide interpreters for performances like theaters and concert. Back to Lynette.
Yeah, thanks,
Beth,
Beth. I apologize.
Beth and Lynette, may I ask, you mentioned advanced something that has access to wheelchairs, et cetera?
Advanced Independence Network.
Thank you.
And as we talk about the accessibility library, that is actually a resource that you can reach directly out to through the accessibility library. I did want to add You know, we're always learning. Beth, I, and our teammates are always learning so much from the community. We actually had somebody reach out to us and ask about a performance interpreter. And I had personally never heard of that. And one of my colleagues has experienced it. And she said it was the most amazing, amazing moment. She was at a rock concert, and the performance interpreter was interpreting the music the lyrics being said, but was also just jamming out to the song so you could feel the music through them. I was like, that is the coolest thing. I can't imagine in my world how I would sign and dance at the same time. I don't know, but there are experts who can do this. And I thought that was so brilliant, so people can really feel and also see the lyrics at the same time. That was really neat. But we're here at the Accessibility Library, and the accessibility of an event is not merely a factor in its success. It's also the key to creating a more enriching and enjoyable experience for all in attendance. So these are the first words you'll read when you enter the Accessibility Libraries page, which can be found online through the Akron Summit County Public Library. And Grace, for ease of access, is going to put that link in the chat box for you. So what will you find in this space? First and foremost, a catalog of physical items to borrow. Yes, you'll need a library card, and you need to live in the state of Ohio to get that library card, but you will need that library card. And so I'm just going to give you a snippet of the things that you would be able to check out for free for your events. We have things like a 10-person assistive listening system. There are accessibility parking signs, adjustable wood easels, sensory bags to pass out, specialized scissors, noise canceling headphones, portable ramps, and so much more in there. And these are all there for you to help create more inclusive environments in your spaces. You're also going to find checklists that are specifically designed to help you create an all-inclusive outdoor event. And if you're seeking support, this is an area where Joan, this is her skill set to be able to help you navigate and prioritize for you what that looks like. Resources. So Beth has already shared a lot of resources, but there are many other resources that you can tap into in the library. And there's also a space to request supports, which is really exciting. So this is where you are connected directly to Joan to ask questions. Joan and her teammates can come out to the site with you. If you would like us to come out, we could just consult with you. Or we could even, help go through the library lists and help you define and decide what might be best for you. We're familiar with all of the items in there, so that is definitely something that we could help you with. But you also can access the Advancing Independence Network with John Ballard, so you can connect with him too for certain elements. And he is great at ADA and understanding those rules, and is an expert in helping if you would like to utilize a ramp. He could really help you identify what that looks like and what size you might need and things like that. So that is a great resource for all of you as you go through this process. So lastly, though, I would like to talk about the accessibility library, and just kind of take our jump off of what Grace was sharing earlier today. The library is a strategy that was identified in the Akron Summit Cultural Plan, which originated with artist and advocate Alicia Hopkins. So this thoughtful implementation of a process by which nonprofit community groups could access assistive technology and support items for events was a group effort, and it did include Advancing Independence Network, the Akron Summit County Public Library, Arts Now, Direction Homes, and Summit BD. So do you remember when I said even the smallest acts, and in this case, a conversation, can generate huge results. That's what Alicia brought. A singular voice was all that was needed to light the candle of more conversations until the point words became actions, and those actions created the first accessibility library in the state of Ohio. That is huge. That is massive, because somebody got in front of somebody who took the time to listen. Thank you, Nicole. So with that, though, I'm going to send you back to Beth. She's got more information to share with you.
So when you talk about accessibility, you want to look at different categories of access. So first you want to think about sensory access. That includes making considerations for people who are hyposensitive, who are seeking stimulation, or hypersensitive, who want to avoid sensory stimulation, to external stimuli like lights, sounds, and textures. Some things that you can use. The sensory bus is, a perfect example of a cool down space that you could use. You don't have to use the bus. You could set up a cool down space. You could set up activity spaces, sensory bags, noise canceling headphones from the accessibility library. Physical access looks at not only can people get into your event, but can they, once they're in there, are they able to navigate with ease? Can they engage with the exhibits or the programs? Do they have access to basic services? So, can they get around? Do you have ramps? Do you have sidewalks? Is there signage? Also under physical access could be visual limitations. So thinking about large print brochures, maps, and guides for people who might need advanced assistance could be helpful. Cognitive access ensures that information, materials, and communications are readily available and easily understandable to people with limitations in cognitive abilities, such as those who are impacted by learning or developmental or intellectual disabilities, could be age, could be, traumatic brain injury, or even access to education. Language access, English may not be your visitor's first language. What can you do to support individuals whose primary language may not be English, including individuals who speak American Sign Language? And then financial access. People with disabilities are overwhelmingly underemployed or unemployed, meaning they live on a limited income and may not have discretionary funds to spend on things like art events. So financial access takes into consideration that cost itself can be a barrier and looks to create ways to reduce or remove the issue of cost. Back to Lynette.
Oh, I think we are at that space for questions.
I still have
Conversation?
some additional resources. I'm sorry, I missed that part. So the ADA website is where I got all of my information in addition to Lynette. Just brainstorming, but I got a lot of information from the ADA website, which is adata.org. And there's actually a guide for planning, for making temporary events accessible for people with disabilities. So I found that really helpful. And then Accessible Ohio, which can be accessed from the Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities website. And now I think we're ready for questions.
All right, well, thank you so much, Beth and Lynette, for all of the great information. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing so that we can all see each other again. And we will go ahead and open it up to the group for questions or any comments, anything that we didn't get to today that you'd like to talk about.
While folks are, oh, I'm sorry, Sarah, you have a question?
Yeah, I do. You have to excuse me. I'm on my lunch break. I work outside, so I look a little like a mess. So I wanted to just come in real quick. I have two questions. One was, I joined the meeting a little late. Are we able to access the video from this meeting afterward? Like, is it recorded so that we could maybe rewatch parts of it or anything?
Yes, I'm gonna send that out when we're done, along with the slides.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And then my other question is if there are any resources for accessible bathrooms, like essentially porta potties, things like that. If anyone has any information on that.
If you're speaking specifically about porta potties, you can request accessible porta potties. So,
Okay.
yeah, but you do have to specify. That's what you're looking for.
Lynette,
Okay.
where would someone do that?
I actually believe we have a link in the accessibility library. That was one of the
Okay.
spaces we put in.
I can also
Okay.
tell you that any place that you would rent them from locally, boy, I'm thinking of, we get them all the time and I can't come up with the company name, but I can tell you that all of them do offer a wheelchair accessible, ADA accessible version. And we typically get, one of those for every however many we need, but you can get them, as many as you need. It's a flat roll-in surface. It's, it's obviously a bigger unit, it's wider, there's a transfer area and so forth. So for those in wheelchairs, but if you can meet the requirements of a wheelchair, you're typically pretty good to go. For most others, what I haven't seen or heard is that they have like an adult changing station where you've got, a platform where an adult could be changed. I don't know if they have that.
Okay.
I will share now that you've kind of landed in that spot, Lisa, and thank you for that detail. I could not have provided that much detail, so I greatly appreciate that. Joan, did you want to talk just a moment about the portable trailer, all-inclusive restroom?
Oh,
Now you're gonna make me try to think of the name. Just share on this morning. We spoke with somebody from Montgomery County who had discovered this portable unit. Yeah, they do have trailers and it's all enclosed as well as separate one. So it does have a wheelchair ramp, it does have stairs, and it has all of the items inside that might be needed, a sink, a toilet, enough room for someone to navigate, transferring somebody on and off a table. So what they did is they asked to have it sent here, and they had it at their fair in Montgomery County. And they do have a website. I'm going to have to look, do you remember Lynette offhand? Because I'm gonna have to look it up.
It's
Momentum something.
Yeah,
Momentum
trailer.
Refresh. Yeah, I don't want to have to navigate away, but it's another space that someone has gone above and beyond to create, going from having a portable tent with a portable changing table inside of the tent with all the necessary directives and signage inside and outside the tent. So that can work in some spaces, but not all spaces. So again, thinking about what does that look like for the future for Summit County? Is that something that might be in the near future? We don't know, but it's something that we're checking into as far as just looking at different things and different ways to move forward with that and provide that for people who have a big need for it.
that's amazing.
And I just put the website in the chat box.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I'm gonna ask Jane, forgive me, I'm giving you about 40 seconds notice. I'm gonna ask you to share, but I was wondering if one of the things that's been really helpful for Arts Now that we participated in is you can request sort of a site audit, whether that's a virtual conversation with the team, with the accessibility library, or if you have a specific site and you're just curious about what, some interventions might look like because you don't even know what to ask for. That is an option. And I put the form that you can request that in the chat, but one of the early adopters for this was Heinz Pole Dance Festival. So I wondered, Jane, could you share I hate to put you on the spot.
Not at all.
But if you don't mind
No.
sharing a little bit, that was such a helpful experience, I think.
Well, it was very helpful for me. And as I said in the very beginning, I'm here to learn because I, foresee and I know there's so much more for us to learn and become aware of. So this is wonderful to have this. Thank you again today. Yes, it was wonderful. We kind of did a site visit. We did a site visit of all the parks that we did that year, and we're the dance festival extends over 3 weeks, and we're at a different park each week. So that was really cool. And we just kind of, we had the powers that be of you that know more about this come out and assess each park and where there were maybe places that we could help people, gain easier access and identify different things, which was very, very, very good. A lot of it for us, the parks already do a very good job, I think. I mean, the parks, have their things that they do, but I know what we do, we come in and we construct a big, huge stage at each park and we move it from park to park. So we're kind of like, there's the park and there's our stage and here we are. How can we help make this more accessible? A lot of what we had to do, of course, was making sure, which we do, that, you've talked about the porta potties, making sure that we have accessible portable bathrooms. Goodyear Metro Park, for example, they're, making sure sidewalks are close by and that we can get people at least as close as we can to that stage. We're still looking at how to, again, each park is different, which is cool and interesting in the same instance in terms of physical access. For example, Firestone Park, the sidewalks are a lot closer. That kind of, well, it does, it helps enormously. Goodyear Metro Park, the distance is a little bit farther. We talked with John Ballard and he's come out and assessed some different things. We are fortunate enough to have Summit DD and Direction Home are there for our Friday night and Saturday night performances, and they have provided sensory bags for people, information, the bubbles. Everybody loves the bubbles. They bring, bubbles that you can have, and it's great. And I'll tell you why it's great from a dancer perspective, interestingly enough, because, things like flash photography and balloons and those neon necklaces and things that you have that kids can wave and everything can be really distracting for the dancers and dangerous. So you came along with bubbles and it was great because they're quiet, but they're fun and you can let them go all over everywhere. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that's so cool. So anyway, we are still exploring. I'm looking at things like interpreters, even though we're dance and it's music and, but how can we help this experience? We provide programs with larger print. We do that.
Yeah.
So right now we're doing very little small things that we can do, but I, want to learn how we can do more and more and more so that, as you say, everybody, dance is for everyone, and that's the truth. So, yeah, you're just here to learn more and more. And a lot of this today has really helped, but having that accessibility, having everybody come out and assess everything was very helpful. And I encourage any organization to do it.
Thanks, Jane, because it was trial and error for us too in those beginning stages. It really was, but it is really all about a team. We're one team, and as you brought up the bubbles, and I thought that was wonderful because we really wanted to have something there for people. But what could that be? And when you look at bubbles and everything Jane talked about, it's also the understanding that bubbles are a breathing technique, which calms people. So that's why we landed where we landed, because
isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, it also helps, the performers in terms of channeling people toward things that help keep them safe as well.
Yeah.
Who knew? I mean,
Yeah.
it was a discovery. It was wonderful.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm.
Thanks, Jane. Does anybody else have any other questions for Lynette and Beth? And like I said, I'll be sending out all the resources afterwards, so you can watch this back again. You can look at the slides. If you want to get in touch with Summit DD, Arts Now can help connect you. But last chance, any other questions before I set you all free?
I'm just going to share, I'm going to show up with this same smile. So I'm the same no matter where I'm at. So just be ready.
Just one quick question that relates to site audits. Do you take like into account, it seems like the grade of certain sites is pretty variable. Do you have recommendations for how to like sort of deal with some of those issues?
There are a lot of spaces where we excel at, some others that we would need some support with. So if you had a question in certain elements, we would bring other people in, because we are the connector of a lot of resources to make it happen for you in that space. So we actually just did something very similar at the Akron Zoo. They asked Joan and I to come out, and they're looking for a portable ramp. And while we're able to kind of help identify space and where it goes, we recognize that Advancing Independence Network is the expert in that area. So we made those connections, but we are also able to provide pictures and things like that to send over as well in that space. So we all work well together.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to say it quickly. Jane, I sent you my email address. Oh, you got it.
Yes.
Good.
Thank
I would
you,
love to know
thank
what we
you.
can do better at that event.
Thanks. Oh, thanks. And same here back. We want to know too. So thank you. I'll get in touch. Thanks.
Okay, good.
All right, any other final questions or thoughts?
Thank you all. This was a very information heavy hour, and that's the way I love it. I have lots of
you.
resources that I can reach out about now. Thank you.
Thank you.